Colin Powell stands as one of the most consequential American figures of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Soldier, strategist, diplomat, and statesman, Powell's life story is not simply one of personal success, but of institutional transformation. Rising from modest beginnings in New York City to become a four-star general, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the first African-American Secretary of State, Powell embodied the possibilities and contradictions of American power. Financially, Powell achieved considerable prosperity by the end of his life. At the time of his death in October 2021, his estimated net worth was widely reported to be around $55 million. This wealth did not come from inherited privilege or speculative excess, but from a long accumulation of income streams. Decades of military service at the highest levels, senior government salaries, best-selling books, high-profile speaking engagements, advisory roles in corporate America, and carefully managed real estate investments. Unlike many political figures, Powell's financial life mirrored his personality, measured, conservative, and focused on long-term stability rather than flamboyance. Yet Powell was never defined by money. His wealth functioned more as evidence of professional credibility and post-service demand than as a symbol of excess. To supporters and critics alike, Powell's value lay not in his assets, but in the decisions he made when history pressed hardest. Early life. Colin Powell was born on April 5, 1937, in Harlem, New York City, to Luther Theophilus Powell and Maud Ariel Powell, Jamaican immigrants who carried with them a deep respect for discipline, education, and faith. His father worked as a shipping clerk, while his mother supported the family as a seamstress. They were not wealthy, but they were firm believers in structure, self-reliance, and moral responsibility. The Powell household was shaped by immigrant pragmatism. Mistakes were not indulged, excuses were not encouraged, and achievement was expected. Colin grew up during a time when racial barriers were both explicit and rigid, yet his parents raised him with the belief that preparation and conduct mattered more than complaint. This worldview would later become foundational to his leadership philosophy. Powell spent much of his youth in the Bronx and later Queens, attending Morris High School, where he was an average student but a disciplined one. He was not a prodigy. In fact, Powell often described himself as directionless in his early teenage years. Ambitious, but unsure of where that ambition should be directed. Everything changed when he enrolled at the City College of New York, CCNY, in 1954. Originally majoring in geology, Powell joined the Reserve Officers Training Corps ROTC, almost by accident. That decision altered the course of his life. In ROTC, Powell found clarity, structure, and purpose. He thrived in an environment that rewarded organization, calm decision-making, and responsibility under pressure. He graduated in 1958 with a Bachelor of Science degree and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. At that moment, Powell had no idea that he was beginning a journey that would place him at the very center of American global power. Personal life. Colin Powell married Alma Vivian Johnson in 1962, beginning one of the most enduring marriages in modern American public life. Alma Powell would become far more than a military spouse. Trained as an audiologist, she later emerged as a prominent advocate for education, children's literacy, and youth development. Throughout Powell's career, Alma served as confidant, advisor, and stabilizing force. The couple had 3 children. Michael Powell, who later served as chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Linda Powell, an accomplished actress. Anne-Marie Powell, who maintained a more private life. Family life was a cornerstone of Powell's identity. Despite frequent deployments, high-level government responsibilities, and constant public attention, Powell consistently emphasized the importance of fatherhood and marital partnership. Religiously, Powell identified as an Episcopalian, a faith tradition he valued for its emphasis on service, reflection, and moral restraint. Religion was never used as a political weapon in his public life, but it quietly informed his views on responsibility, humility, and leadership. Outside government, Powell was a prolific author and speaker. His memoir, My American Journey, became a bestseller and remains a foundational text in leadership literature. He also wrote extensively on ethics, leadership under pressure, and institutional responsibility. These works, combined with global speaking engagements, solidified his reputation as a reflective practitioner of power rather than a mere operator. Professional career. Powell's professional career is best understood as a steady, disciplined ascent rather than a meteoric rise. After commissioning, he served in a variety of operational and administrative roles, quickly earning a reputation for competence and calm judgment. His service in Vietnam, where he completed 2 tours, profoundly shaped his thinking. He witnessed firsthand the consequences of unclear objectives, flawed intelligence, and political overreach. These lessons later informed what became known as the Powell Doctrine, a framework arguing that military force should only be used when objectives are clear, overwhelming force is applied, and exit strategies are defined. Powell rose through the ranks to become National Security Advisor, 1987 to 1989, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, 1989 to 1993. As chairman, Powell oversaw the U.S. military during the Gulf War, one of the most decisive military campaigns in modern history. The coalition-based, clearly defined, and strategically overwhelming nature of the operation reflected Powell's philosophy in practice. In 2001, Powell reached the apex of civilian leadership when he was appointed U.S. Secretary of State. His tenure coincided with one of the most turbulent periods in modern American history. After the September 11th attacks, Powell became the diplomatic face of America's response to terrorism. However, his career was not without controversy. His 2003 presentation to the United Nations regarding Iraq's alleged weapons of mass destruction later became a defining regret. Powell openly acknowledged that flawed intelligence had been presented and described the episode as a blot on his record. His willingness to publicly accept responsibility distinguished him from many contemporaries and reinforced his reputation for integrity. House tour and car collection. Powell's lifestyle reflected restrained affluence rather than extravagance. He and Alma owned a significant residence in McLean, Virginia, a quiet and secure suburb near Washington, D.C. The home featured expansive living spaces, a pool, and carefully maintained grounds, appropriate for a senior national security official, yet notably understated. The Powells also owned a New York City condominium, reinforcing their lifelong ties to the city where Powell's journey began. Both properties emphasize comfort, privacy, and functionality rather than ostentatious display. One of Powell's most charming personal passions was his love of automobiles, particularly Volvos. He was an avid collector and restorer of classic models, preferring reliability and engineering over luxury branding. His collection included vintage Volvos, a Mercedes-Benz Roadster, and famously, a Chrysler PT Cruiser, an unconventional choice for a Secretary of State that perfectly captured Powell's grounded personality. Unlike many public figures, Powell enjoyed working on cars himself. This mechanical hobby provided solitude, focus, and a sense of control, a sharp contrast to the abstractions of global diplomacy. College career. Powell's college career at CCNY deserves particular attention because it illustrates the theme that defined his life: late discovery of purpose. He was not an academic standout, nor did he arrive with a grand plan. ROTC provided the structure he needed to recognize his strengths: organization, leadership, and accountability. He excelled in command roles within ROTC, eventually leading his unit. This experience validated his leadership instincts and convinced him that the military offered a merit-based path forward. CCNY, a public institution serving working-class students, became symbolic of Powell's belief in accessible opportunity and institutional fairness. His lifelong support for CCNY culminated in the establishment of the Colin Powell School, ensuring future generations would have access to leadership education grounded in public service. Cause of death. Colin Powell died on October 18, 2021, at the age of 84. His death occurred at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and was caused by complications from COVID-19. At the time, Powell was suffering from multiple myeloma, a blood cancer that severely compromises the immune system. He had also been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's disease. Despite being fully vaccinated against COVID-19, His underlying conditions made him exceptionally vulnerable. His death sparked widespread reflection on both the dangers of the pandemic and the fragility of even the most disciplined lives. Tributes poured in from across the political spectrum, underscoring the respect Powell commanded even among critics. Colin Powell's life defies simplistic judgment. He was neither flawless hero nor cynical operator. He was a man shaped by discipline, burdened by responsibility, and willing to accept the weight of consequence. From a modest Harlem apartment to the halls of the United Nations, Powell navigated power with restraint, ambition with humility, and success with reflection. His story remains a testament to preparation, service, and the enduring complexity of leadership in a dangerous world.